All right, now let's go ahead and implement this program.cs file changes, which is there in movies.api, obviously. So, but before that, let's just put this connection string over here in that. And what I'm going to have is like just before this login section, what I'm going to put this is like connection strings, right? And that is going to be running on top of Docker itself. So I'll be running this Docker locally, and from that this connection string will be feeded. And what is going to happen here is like Docker is going to run SQL Server instance, and this connection string is going to be established on top of that itself. And obviously it's going to listen on 1445 port, which is nothing but your SQL Server port itself, right? And having said that, let's go ahead and implement this program.cs file, which is looking like this. And we are not going to use this. So what we are going to have is, you know uh, let's put this into namespace rather, and let's say that movies dot probably API would be the nice thing for this. And in this, let's go ahead and let's say public class, program. And now let's go ahead and implement this. So all right, so what we are going to need is like of course this is static void main thing, like which we have been using, right? But for this, what I'm going to have is like a little different approach. Rather than a static void main, I'm just going to have like async task of main. Let's try that. And we are going to have this async task of main. And because we are going to see data from here itself, and that is going to be an async operation, so that's why I'm just having like this. And nothing fancy about that. You can obviously go ahead and implement this classic static void main. There is no problem with that. But still, let's try our hands doing this way. And create this time we are going to create this host builder itself, right? And we are going to create this method, and that's going to take this args. And then we are going to stitch this with the build itself. Once this is there, so what we can do here is we'll just go ahead and await for probably our seed method, right? And here we are going to say create and something like seed db, and which is going to take host entry over here. And that's the thing. And once this is returned, so we can have this host dot run, right? So this host we can go ahead and run that. So now probably our template is like that's ready. Let's go ahead and create these methods and create method host builder. And of course that is going to be here. What I'm going to supply here is like rather than void, public static I host builder. And you see this build has come up nicely here once I have made this I host builder itself. Now the next thing which I'm going to do here is like, let's make this expressive syntax. I usually call this expressive syntax. And because in fluent way we are just doing that. And in that itself we can just go ahead and configure our web host defaults. So what we are going to have is we'll just go ahead and pick up this, and we're just going to say that okay, web builder, let's go ahead and do your magic. And in which case this is going to stitch that startup file which we have created already in the last clip. And I'm just going to use that. And that's the method to use that. You see that in .NET 6, because although that programming model is introduced with this program.cs, they are not saying that these things are deprecated. That's why I'm using this, right, to use a startup. And that's why I'm actually forcing to use this. I myself is sticking to that particular model. but it's not mandatory for you guys to continue this way. You can obviously go ahead with this .NET way, which .NET 6 is recommending. There is no such restriction for that. I'm just having for my preference. And now let's go ahead and create this method, and let's create this, and let's keep this down. This is the private method, obviously private method that itself. And we can have this this is fine, even this is fine. We can, I was just thinking whether to keep this public or not, but that's fine. And what could be done here, right? And create and seed db, right? So its job is, so basically as soon as program starts, so its job is to basically seed sample data inside database, so that we can, our controller can utilize those things. So I'm just going to use this using blog. I'm going to ask for the scope from this host itself, and that is going to give me services here. And I'm just going to create a scope here, and with that I'll just get rid of this, and let's have this var services equals, I mean, I'm having the scope, so I should be getting the service provider, right? Once I have this, so now I can also look for this logger factory, which I can go ahead and this is pretty important, like especially when it comes to microservices, your logging stuff, when you are going to require this, right? Because that is the thing which is going to tell, like, which is the service which is giving you problem. And it's not only about problem, whether things are working correctly or not. So that's where you are going to ascertain this from these guys like logger factory. Right now let's go ahead and have this try catch block itself. And with that being said, like I'm just going to say that movies context, and here I'm just going to wire things up like services dot get required service probably, and here I'm just going to need this movie context. Okay, now I'll just go ahead and await this movie context seed, and probably I have created with this. And let's go ahead and seed async, and here it's going to need this movie context plus the logger factory, right? So these are the things which it is going to need. And of course let's go ahead and have this catch block as well. And in that let's have certain exception got here in case if there is any. And of course with the default logging in place, we can certainly utilize that, and we can say something like, okay, I'm in program itself, so let's go ahead and log that error, and probably log error, and in which case I'm just going to interpolate this in probably API, and exception message. Now this is fine as far as your local instance is concerned, but this interpolation is not a templated message. What it says here is like it should be something like templating thing, which I have already addressed in cross-cutting concerns, where I have been, working with this, structured logging, and there I have utilized Serilog, and I have discussed like how to avoid these kind of errors in that microservices course itself, where it is divided into 6 episodes. So that's what I'm talking about. Like these things are pretty important. Otherwise, these things will get flagged inside your, sonar flag itself. That quality checks, quality gate. This will be flagged there, right? So if you guys need to know all details about minute details about these things, like so obviously you should check out that particular course. and in that particular course is that covering that cross-cutting concerns. So that's it. And I think we are done with this program.cs. Let's go ahead and build once, and let's check whether it's coming fine or not. And we have also implemented, so this build has succeeded. And we have also implemented this app settings not json. Now what we need to do here is we are going to create the controller piece of that API section. So let's go ahead and create that next.